Hello, I'm David Aki, and this Pechakucha will be about the influences of Edo period Japan on 19th century Paris. I will discuss the history of each period, who was influenced, the artwork, the artists, and the culture. I'll start by giving a brief overview about the history of the two periods. The Edo period, or also known as the Tokugawa period, was between 1603 and 1868. This period is known for the rapid modernization of Japan and many famous woodblock prints, like the Great Wave of Kanagawa. Artists like Hokusai and Utamaro were very popular during this time and even today. Warning, stop right there. My next slide contains a bit of artistic nudity, and I emphasize artistic nudity because during the Edo period, a lot of nudity was used in the artwork, and I just needed a disclaimer to let you guys know that I'm not trying to be a perv or anything, where this is exactly how history shows it. During this period, many artists were fascinated by sex. Many cultures see sex as a taboo, but during the Edo period, sexualization was very popular amongst artists. To a certain extent, they can even be pornographic. I didn't include any for the sake of being inappropriate, but I know art has a lot of nudity in it, so I still tried to add one. During this period, Japan opened its ports to the world for the first time. This is how Japanese culture spread throughout Europe and the rest of the world. One of the main traders was France. They were intrigued by the art, culture, and fashion. The French bought porcelain, silk, and many Japanese pieces of art through trade. Later, a craze in France known as Japonism began. Ukiyo-e woodblock prints became wildly popular. Fads like this happen common in history, kind of like, fidget spinners, hoverboards, but more on an artistic level. Even some of the most well known artists were influenced. Vincent van Gogh, James Whistler, Claude Monet, and Paul Gauguin were all very influenced by Edo period art. Though only three of the four I mentioned were French, I felt like adding Whistler because it shows how many people were influenced by Edo period art. I say this because Whistler was the only American in that list of names I mentioned. Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, and Art Nouveau were all influenced by ukiyo-e prints. The wispy curving lines, the muted colors, the simplicity, the two-dimensional images, that's what made all of those styles so unique. And some of these paintings have even transcended time, some of the most recognizable paintings in history. In the book Masterpieces in the Van Gogh Museum, it states that Van Gogh himself said, "I envy the Japanese for the enormous clarity which all things have. Their work is as easy as breathing, and they can make a figure with several well chosen lines and make it seem as easy as buttoning your jacket." For Van Gogh to say this, the influences of Edo period art must have been truly amazing. Come on. Van Gogh, one of the most well known artists, was greatly inspired by Edo period art even though he had never been to Japan. He collected many ukiyo-e prints and later became inspired because of this strong art style. Utagawa Hiroshige is the man known as the master of the ukiyo-e style. He inspired Van Gogh and many other artists. After the death of both of his parents, he began painting at the age 14. Later in his life, he produced over 18,000 prints to meet the demand for his work. Though many artists are seen in the spotlight, each print had a team of experts: the designer, the engraver, the printer, and the publisher. This process seemed to be long, but despite that, artists still had hundreds of prints. They worked to meet the demand from foreign collectors despite the length of the work. Though many In 1854, Japan opened trade with the Western world under the Tokugawa shogunate. This caused a surge of Japanese wealth. The French, Dutch, English, and Americans were all intrigued by the Japanese. The Edo period is also known as the last period of traditional Japan because of all of the foreign influences. You ever wonder about grandma's prized fine china? Well, china wasn't only from China. Blue porcelain was a big factor in Japanese craftsmanship. Many French were also intrigued by the delicate porcelain. Today, blue porcelain is quite expensive. In fact, I see pieces on Google for going over like $200, so it's very expensive. European architecture was even affected by Japanese influence. Claude Monet, for example, was very inspired. He had parts of his own garden to resemble Japanese gardens. He even installed a bridge and lilies to resemble many Japanese gardens he had seen in paintings. He even painted his own garden numerous times.